do this. So Flyte Decks, this feature that we're adding to the Flyte ecosystem, to Flyte Kit more specifically. Let's first talk about like why are we even doing this, right? Like what are the use cases that we think will be covered by having this concept of like decks now available to the Flyte Kit users? Describe some of the features, do a demo. There's like a lot to cover, so I'll try to be quick, not use a lot of the time for this meeting. And there's a lot of future work planned for this, so especially around like contributions from the community. These but let's first talk about like why decks. So machine learning
Eduardo,
has a
sorry,
what's that?
Sorry to stop you. Are you sharing your screen, by the way? We're not seeing.
Oh my god, I'm not. Oh, that's what Zoom is. Desktop. How do I? I'm gonna share my whole desktop. I'm so sorry. Zoom. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, now we can.
Awesome. You didn't miss much. This is like a bunch of housekeeping slides. So let's just keep going. Why are we adding this? Why do we think get what was missing in the Flyte Kit like experience at this point? So as we all know and love, like Flyte has been focusing on becoming like the machine learning platform, like the de facto machine learning platform for for teams. And oftentimes you want to be able to visualize steps of your workflow, not in terms of like what the inputs are and what the outputs are, but more like add some custom visualization to it. Like in this example here, we're just like getting a data set and producing some custom metrics for this is a very well-known data set, the iris data set that you like multiple libraries have, like scikit-learn and whatnot. So Flyte so far has this idea of like letting you know what are the inputs and outputs are, but we haven't really invested in like letting the users specify custom visualizations for specific tasks, right? So we asked ourselves, hey, how could we do this? And this is what we came up with, this concept of a deck or a Flyte deck. So from a conceptual standpoint, a deck is a kind of meta output attached to specific task executions that allow users to customize visibility into their tasks. So this is a very abstract notion. Let's get it more real. Let's reify this. So the idea is now you're going to be able to add custom visualizations for inputs and outputs, and what I'm calling here steps within tasks. Each task execution gets its own set of decks, and what are these visualizations that we built so far? So we have summaries of pandas data frames. We have a markdown renderer, which means you can now output markdown from within a task execution. We also built a box plot chart using Plotly. So now you can get all the like those simple summaries of pandas data frames or some other sort of like tabular data like quartiles and quantiles and like min and max and the median and whatnot, right? We also built a renderer for the profile report that's exposed in the pandas data frames themselves. So that's take a look at the demo now. I wrote. Can you guys see this? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Amazing. So For those who have never written Flyte code using FlyteKit, there's not a whole lot of mystery here. Like it's super simple. Like we have a workflow that's composed of tasks, right? Decks are attached to specific tasks. So in this case, like we are not really doing anything super magical. I just wanted to introduce the feature. Here we have like a workflow that basically doubles the input and stringifies that value in a later task, which is what this means, right? We're stringifying a thing that's best 42 to it, so we get 84, and we return the string 84. So how does that look in the console now? So this is example one. I just ran it. I don't want us to spend time just waiting for things to run. But like,
you, zoom in real quick.
Yeah, but insane resolution.
How about now? Is it better?
Yep.
I wonder if it translates to the net. Amazing. I won't have to do this. Great. So remember, I guess I'll put these side by side. No. Just look at the output of the stringify task. Now we introduced a new button to the task execution, Flyte Deck. This is like for this very simple task, it doesn't do much, right? You get a visualization for your inputs. In this case, there's a single input, there's a single output. So not super exciting, but let's do something more interesting. Let's go to example 2. Now we have a proper deck and we're using the markdown renderer. So read this from bottom to top. Like you have a workflow that contains a single task that produces some markdown. So here I'm just writing some markdown texts using the headings, but not super exciting. But this is where the magic happens, right? Like we are adding a markdown renderer tag or some text to the markdown renderer, and we are appending that to the default deck for this task. This is how the API looks like. You get the context, get the deck for this task, and then you append, can I call them renditions of each of specific renderers. I'm returning the text here just so we can compare like how all these are rendered, but this is how this thing looks like. So render again, it's a workflow containing a single task, right? And here's how the deck for this task look like. We have a default deck called, well, default, and it is markdown. So let's compare to the actual text here, like it has like the heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3, and compared to the how we render it, we also get the inputs and outputs, but there's no inputs in this case, but there is an output. So just to compare, we are returning the markdown text that was rendered in the default deck. That's one example. Let's keep going. Things will get more interesting now. So let's take a look at this workflow. So here we have 3 tasks, right? Generate normal DF, generate annotated normal DF, and box render. So the first one, generate normal DF, it returns a data frame. The contents of the data frame is not super interesting. I just wanted to compare the outputs of these 2 tasks. So in the first case, we return the naked data frame. Whereas in the second case, we're saying, hey, I want to get a slightly different kind of summary for this data frame containing at most 100 rows. And the third task, it just uses the box plot renderer, and it outputs the CPAL length as the summary. Right, so let's take a look at the output of each one of these. So example 3, take a look at the output of this task. We're getting, a bunch of metrics for that data frame, count mean, whatnot. But in the second case, in the annotated case, we actually get the values of the data frame. And I said I wanted to show at most 100 rows. So we have 500 rows total in this data frame. But notice like how here in the middle, I am only showing the top 50 and the bottom 50 rows, right? So imagine this could be a data frame that's super complex and has multiple columns, but you can say, hey, just show me the top 10. Yeah, and then, box rendered. As I said, we also have a box plot renderer already implemented. So this case, you get like the max, the min, median, and 2 quantiles. This thing uses Plotly, so you can like zoom in, like pan, and well, go back to it. And finally, you can mix and match these examples or these renderers. So in this case, we have another workflow that combines a bunch of renders, right? We have the box plot renderer that I just showed and some markdown, and you can imagine like you can have like other kinds of renders attached to this task execution, right? So this is how this looks like. So combined renderers, Flyte Decks, and we have the box plot that was we had earlier, defaults, like some markdown and the inputs and outputs. But imagine like this could be as richful as you can think or come up with. And so final example, I just wanted to show that you're not tied to only visualizing Flyte Decks inside of the console, right? You can, like, lots of people they feel more familiar with Jupyter notebooks. So why not expose Jupyter notebooks, or Flyte Decks to people who feel at home when they are programming inside Jupyter notebooks? So we also did that for Decks. So this case here, like the code's not super important, but like take a look at this. We're defining a task, and I'm just appending. In this case, it's the data frame profiler reporter from pandas that we haven't shown. Same idea. Have a task. You append a renderer to some deck in a task, and here's how you use it. So you instantiate a new context, execute your task. We had a small problem with this is how you're supposed to be getting all the decks attached to a task execution. You just do context.getDeck. There's a slight bug there. We're going to fix it, but this is the proposed API. So I'm forcing the HTML to be displayed in this case, but that this is not what we expect users to be doing. And lo and behold, you get your deck inside Panda or a Jupyter notebook. So in this case, it's this profiling report, which can be way smaller if you configure it. But here we're just showing like everything that Pandas gives you. So like correlation, like there's a bunch of analysis and variables and whatnot. But the next step really is like you can combine this visualization here in Jupyter Notebook with Flyte Remote, right? You can take or leverage Flyte to not only run your tasks, but you can use Jupyter Notebook alongside with Flyte Decks to visualize tasks that were executed in your Flyte cluster. So the sky really is the limit for Flyte Decks. we only have a small number of renderers implemented so far. So some future work, as I said, we want to extend the support for renderers. Imagine you had, an option to have like Pandera checks embedded, like for inputs for tasks or performance data. Imagine like having flame graphs attached to some task execution that uses, I don't know, you are investigating some perf issue. It's a bunch of like other markdown languages that we don't have support for right now that would be great because they're used in the community, like, restructure text, LaTeX. If we go back to the beginning of the presentation, I said that a Flyte Deck is a kind of a meta output, but right now the internals of how Flyte Decks is implemented, the meta output concept is not a first class citizen in the Flyte system. So I want to introduce this concept of a proper meta output that you can attach to tasks. We also want to add decks for failed tasks. Again, for like debugging purposes. Imagine you have your workflow, for whatever reason you have a particular task that's failing. You want to know what's happening there. Right now, decks are only attached to tasks that successfully executed. And then, as I said, like the sky really is the limit. Like we can have decks for other kinds of tasks, like math tasks. Imagine BigQuery tasks having decks for. Anyways, here's if you have more ideas, you want to contribute to this, please. This is more than welcome. We need help to make sure that DAX is a feature that is successful. And Katrina already mentioned this. This feature is going out in the next release, the 1.1 release. Go Hawks! Here, I want to acknowledge the person who actually did all the heavy lifting for this feature. Kevin, not sure if you are in the call. If you're not, thank you. Thank you so much. Now I open for questions, if anyone has any.
I just have a comment. I think it's fantastic. I think this is great to see more renderers coming. Also in life sciences, where data frames don't lend itself in life sciences to be presented as tables of data frames because there's a lot of contextual information on top. So I could see very specific renderers for bio coming because they have a very different way of visualizing things. So I think there's a whole lot that will happen in this area. So I just want to say this was amazing. Kudos to you, and I can see more. And I would love to see more renderers soon.
Yeah, and actually, probably Eduardo did not show the renders, and that was really, really simple. It's just 1 to HTML fact. So yeah, please. And I know there are a lot of people who've been waiting for this feature. So now you have no excuses. Add renders.
That's right.